Well, Ticky joins me again live from Perth now and in the studio here in Sydney, a man who's a frequent flyer on our program, Roger Montgomery from Montgomery Investment Management. Welcome to the program, Roger.
Thank you, Andrew.
Well, Ticky, firstly to you, you've just spent a large part of the day with one of the business world's larger-than-life characters. So what were your impressions?
Well, that he doesn't change. I mean, I've interviewed Sir Richard a couple of times over the years, and he flew in 22-hour flight, 1 a.m. He got here, and he was up and at it with his brand pushing and the pushing of the experience. And I think that's what Virgin Australia loves about having Sir Richard Branson around. He didn't deny that he potentially could be selling down to zero his holding in Virgin Australia, but that the brand connection would still be there. And as we've heard, you know, there are plenty of other shareholders quite willing to put money into Virgin Australia at the moment. So it's not money they want, but that there's real value in that brand that they get from Branson.
On to the business of the day, and is it the view over in Perth that the deal with Sky West is the last link in the chain to Virgin becoming a full-service competitor to Qantas?
Look, I think that's very much what Virgin Australia are pushing. It's a big jump in the West for them. They've gone from, I think it's 15 to 25% of intra-Western Australian market share, as I mentioned. And I think the other element which they've just taken on is that controlling shareholding in Tiger Airways. So they've got their sort of lower cost, although they don't really like that phrase, but that lower cost to rival Jetstar. They have got a lot of work to do there, though, in terms of creating the sort of experience, the opportunistic experience that John Borghetti is looking for in Jetstar. He reckons it'll take 2 years, and I think it'll be, you know, quite some work that will need to go in there under this new chief executive that he's pulled over from Qantas.
Well, Roger Montgomery, Sir Richard Branson and John Borghetti are obviously talking up this Sky West deal.
Yes.
But the bottom line with airlines is they don't make much money, do they? And Virgin shares are down 33% the last 5 years.
And the reason why that's the case, Andrew, is very simple. If you'd kicked this business off in 2003 when the company floated, you would have had to write a cheque for $184 million. That was the equity that was in the business. And you would have had to borrow $139 million from the bank. Now, in the first year, 2003, you made $110 million profit. Fast forward to 2012, your profit's more than halved. It's now $43 million. But in addition to that, you've tipped in another $530-odd million. You've left in profits of about $120 million, so call it about $700 million of additional equity that you've contributed, and yet your profits have halved or more than halved, and the debt has risen from $139 million in 2003 to $1.7 billion now. So Richard Branson, Sir Richard Branson, makes his money from lending his brand to ventures, and that is a very successful business, but operating an airline has been a less successful business for many operators. And
one of your favourite sayings is that the value follows the money, which would then explain the share price fall in Virgin.
That's exactly right. The intrinsic value of Virgin over the years has fallen because that's been a wealth-destroying exercise since 2003 for minority shareholders, and over time the share price follows the value, and so that's why in 2003 the share price was about $2.30 and now it's about 45 cents or 48 cents.
Well, as Virgin Australia becomes a full-service airline just like Qantas, it's going to come under the same pressures as Qantas, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, and we're talking about capital intensity, labour intensity, uncontrollable fuel costs, and irrational competitors who charge less to fly to Melbourne than it costs to ride a bicycle there. You can't operate a business that way, and that's why when Warren Buffett famously said that had he been at Kitty Hawk when Orville Wright took off in 1903 or 1904, he hopes he would have had the presence of mind for all future capitalists to have shot him down.
Well, Ticky, we hope Virgin doesn't get shot down, but unlike Qantas, as John Borghetti alluded to in that interview, they have a share register packed full of top-notch airlines. I mean, what role do you see them playing in making Virgin competitive with Qantas and actually doing really well financially?
Well, again, it depends at what point you buy in. No one says that airline business aren't cyclical. But Roger very conveniently did pick 5 years ago, which was an awful time to buy into the business. If you picked 4 years ago, the share price was half what it is today. So it actually depends as an investor at what point you get in on this game. Interestingly, some of these shareholders, and I don't think any of them at the moment want to get out, Air New Zealand, Singapore, Etihad, I mean, it's got nowhere to go, even though it's uncomfortable that Singapore has has taken Sir Richard's shareholding. I mean, where's it going to go? Emirates is with Qantas. So these are players that actually want to buy in. Some of them have got very deep pockets. And in that scenario I mentioned in the interview, if for example, Air New Zealand and Singapore were to get together, I mean, they could decide to pour more money into an Australian big battle and up the ante against Qantas. Of course, in all this game, it depends too what the new Qantas and Emirates outfit will be doing. But and of course, as we know, time and time again, this market has room for two airlines. So if one's doing better, chances are the other one's doing worse.
Ticky, we're almost out of time. Very, very quickly, Roger, the battle over market share, it's just about price, isn't it? That's just a race to the bottom, surely.
Unfortunately, yes. And moving into Rex's space doesn't mean the market's going to grow. It perhaps means that the market's going to split. There's only room for two large domestic airlines. I don't think there's room for two regional airlines. All
right, then. Roger Montgomery, thank you very much for your time. Ticky, thank you for your time. Have a safe trip back.
Thanks, indeed.